Asti 6 months after the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States found itself facing another Japanese strike, this time aimed at a tiny atoll in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The Battle of Midway, fought from June 4th to 7th, 1942, was not merely a clash of fleets. It was a test of wills, strategy, and survival. For America, still reeling from Pearl Harbor, Midway represented a chance to strike back. For Japan, it was an attempt to crush the U.S. Pacific Fleet once and for all. What unfolded was one of the most remarkable naval battles in history, a 4-day struggle that shifted the balance of power in the Pacific and changed the course of World War II. Setting the stage, Japan's bold gambit. By mid-1942, Japan seemed unstoppable. Its forces had swept through Southeast Asia, captured the Philippines, and extended their empire across the Pacific. But Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, architect of Pearl Harbor, knew that the U.S. Navy remained a threat. His plan was bold: lure the American fleet into a trap near Midway Atoll, a tiny U.S. outpost roughly halfway between Asia and North America. By seizing Midway, Japan could threaten Hawaii directly and potentially force the U.S. into negotiations. What Yamamoto did not know was that American cryptographers had broken key parts of Japan's naval code. U.S. intelligence officers discovered Midway was the target and passed the information to Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, commander of the Pacific Fleet. Armed with this knowledge, Nimitz devised a plan not to defend passively, but to ambush the Japanese fleet. June 4th, 1942. The battle begins. At dawn on June 4th, Japanese aircraft launched a massive strike against Midway Island, bombing airfields and defenses. American defenders fought back fiercely, with Marine pilots rising into the sky to meet the attackers. Many were shot down, but their resistance bought precious time. Meanwhile, 3 American aircraft carriers, USS Enterprise, USS Hornet, and USS Yorktown, lay in wait northeast of the island, their decks swarmed with aircraft preparing for battle. The first American strikes were disastrous. Squadrons of torpedo bombers flew low and slow toward the Japanese carriers, only to be cut down by Zero fighters and anti-aircraft fire. Out of 41 planes, only a handful returned. The losses were devastating, yet their sacrifice drew Japanese fighters down to sea level, leaving the skies above vulnerable. The turning point: dive bombers strike. At that crucial moment, American dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown arrived overhead. From 20,000 feet, they dove nearly vertically through clouds and flak, releasing bombs with deadly precision. In a matter of minutes, 3 Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu, were ablaze. Their decks, loaded with fueled aircraft and bombs, erupted in fiery explosions. Sailors leapt into the sea as the once mighty carriers burned to the waterline. The Japanese, stunned, managed to launch a counterstrike that badly damaged Yorktown, but by June 5th, the last of their 4 carriers, Hiryu, was also sunk by American planes. The tide of battle had turned irrevocably. Aftermath: a shattered empire. The cost of victory was high. The U.S. lost the carrier Yorktown, a destroyer, and 307 men. Yet Japan's losses were catastrophic: 4 fleet carriers, over 250 aircraft, and thousands of irreplaceable sailors and pilots. For Japan, Midway was more than a defeat. It was a disaster. Its carrier fleet, the striking arm of its navy, was crippled beyond recovery. For the United States, it was a triumph of intelligence, courage, and resolve. What had begun with desperation and sacrifice ended with a stunning victory, stories of heroism and sacrifice. The human element of Midway is as compelling as its strategic outcome. Torpedo Squadron 8, VT-8, from USS Hornet flew into the teeth of Japanese defenses with no fighter cover. All 15 planes were shot down, and only one man, Ensign George Gay, survived, floating in the ocean as the battle raged around him. His courage and that of his comrades became legendary. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey, leading Enterprise's dive bombers, made a critical decision when he spotted a lone Japanese destroyer speeding across the sea. Following its wake led him directly to the enemy carriers, ensuring the success of the American strike. Countless sailors and airmen faced overwhelming odds with determination, embodying the resilience of a nation that refused to bow to defeat. Why Midway mattered. Midway was more than a tactical victory. It was a psychological turning point. At Pearl Harbor, America had been caught off guard. At Midway, it demonstrated skill, foresight, and courage. Strategically, the battle halted Japanese expansion and placed Japan on the defensive for the rest of the war. It gave the U.S. breathing room to rebuild, reorganize, and eventually launch the island-hopping campaigns that brought the war to Japan's doorstep. For Americans, Midway symbolized hope. It proved that the nation could rise from disaster, that determination and ingenuity could overcome fear and loss. It was, in many ways, the moment the U.S. began to believe not only in survival, but in victory. Legacy: Midway in American memory. Today, Midway is remembered as one of the greatest naval victories in history. The atoll itself, once the center of fierce battle, is now a wildlife refuge, but the memory of June 1942 lives on in history books, memorials, and the hearts of veterans' families. The story of Midway is taught not just as a military case study, but as an example of resilience and unity. It reminds Americans that even in moments of despair, courage can rewrite destiny. Conclusion: the tide turns. The Battle of Midway was not inevitable. It was won by a combination of intelligence breakthroughs, daring leadership, and the ultimate sacrifice of ordinary men in extraordinary circumstances. It turned the Pacific War from a desperate defense into an offensive campaign that would ultimately bring victory. For the United States, Midway is a reminder that history can hinge on a single moment, a single decision, or a single act of bravery. It remains a testament to the power of resolve and a beacon of hope that even the darkest hours can give way to triumph. As Admiral Nimitz reflected, they had no right to win, yet they did. And in doing so, they changed the course of a war, even against the greatest of odds. The echoes of Midway still remind us today, courage and conviction can turn the tide of history.